All right, so let's magnetize Orc Storm Boy like this guy here. As you can see, his backpack is removable. His left arm is removable. And his right arm is removable. So a lot of times we want to do this for models that have several different options for weapons, or in this case, even backpacks and rockets, just to make sure that we can use all the parts in a game in case somebody wants what you see is what you get Warhammer 40K game or Kill Team game. All right. So we have a few things that we're going to need. A magnet combo pack is ideal for this. They have 1/8 inch magnets, 50 of them with one drill bit, and as you can see, they're $16.99. You can also order them online in different sizes. I picked up a whole bunch of 3mm by 2mm magnets and 1/4 inch magnets. The 3mm by 2mm magnets in a 500 pack were $11 on eBay, and it was another $10 for the 1/4 inch size magnets. The important thing to remember is whatever size magnet you get a drill bit that is appropriate for that magnet. So I've used all of the 1/8 inch magnets in this particular pack, so when I bought this 500 pack I had to find a different drill bit size to fit it. And since it's not Imperial 1/8, it's 3mm, it comes down to a simple conversion. Well, I wouldn't say simple, but anyway, it's conversion to Imperial from metric. It goes down to 7/32, I believe, is the size of the drill bit. So with these drill bits, this is kind of a dirtied up and very used one here, but you want to make sure that you're marking them for depth, because when you magnetize your models, you're going to find out that you can't magnetize all of them. A lot of models are too small, or the plastic is too thin, or it's just too weak to hold a magnet. Fortunately for us, Orks are one of the models that are fairly bulky and durable, and they have, since they have so many different customization options, they're ideal for this particular modification, if you will. So before we start actually drilling into the model that we have over here, what we're going to want to do is check the depth that we're going to want to drill to put these magnets in. And a lot of times when you do this, you're going to run into problems with bottoming out into the plastic, or going through the other side, or completely shredding the plastic. And that's not something that you want to have happen, but it happens a lot. So if you do happen to screw it up, you're going to want to use something like this green stuff. This particular green stuff in this bar form, if you will, use equal part yellow and blue, and you wet your fingers and roll it together and until it turns green, obviously, and then you can fill up the holes that you made, or fix the mistakes that you made on your model, so you don't have to worry about whether or not you got to buy another one. You can always green stuff over it with a little bit of care and some effort. You can make it look good as new, so you don't have to worry too much about it. All right, so a few things that you're going to need besides the magnet and the drill, obviously, drill bit. You're going to need some contrasted paint so that you can mark the depth that you're going to drill on your drill bit, and you're going to need a brush for that, obviously. Any brush will usually do. You just got to make sure that when you do it, you're as accurate as possible. You're going to want to keep a razor handy in case you need to clean something, and you also need to mark your pilot holes for this on the plastic so that you can get a good cut into the plastic without going off center. And then you're going to want to use some tweezers, the back end of some tweezers. Nice flat surface is really good. If you get these dirty, you get super glue or liquid cement or anything on it, you can always use Citadel's scraper to go ahead and take all that junk off. The last thing is you're going to need here, of course, well, two things, the model and either liquid cement or super glue of your choosing. That's how you're going to secure the magnets in there. Excuse me. So when we're going to start this model here, a few things that you need to know. First and foremost, clip your model off the sprue. Clean up all the sprue bits on here, if you will. Make sure all the shavings and filings and all this stuff are off of there. Glue the pieces together that you want together. For the Storm Boys here, the rocket packs are going to be a single unit that we're going to magnetize, so you're going to want to make sure that those are together first. You're going to need your arms, of course, for the Storm Boy. In this case, we're actually going to magnetize the head as well. And orcs, these guys are really great because they come with all kinds of different facial expressions, and they usually come with 2 or 3 different types of heads. This guy here has a stick bomb in his mouth, if you can see that. So this surface, we're gonna check and see where we can magnetize on here before we start assembling anything and drilling. In this case, you're going to want to make sure that the depth, of course, that you can drill is sufficient. So when we get our drill bit, we're going to mark it like this one. I don't know if you can see this, but I've painted some yellow in there to contrast. And when we go ahead and mark this, you're gonna have to make sure that you go the length of the magnet plus the head of the bit. So if you look on this drill bit right here, if you can see this, there's a rounded part up here on the top, or angled part on the top, where it's going to start cutting into plastic or whatever you're cutting into. When you mark for your depth over here, you're going to want to make sure that you basically have a line that goes from end to end where it's going to start being flat over here. Okay, so this rounded part or angled part up here, you're not going to count for the depth. Well, I guess you're going to add that for the depth. Sorry. So when you put it next to your magnet over here, you're going to go ahead and make sure the magnet part is flat with the end of the bit over here. Let's see if I can get that for you. So you notice there's a little bit sticking out over here, so that you're gonna have to account for that depth also. Okay. So once you've figured out how long the magnet is, you're gonna go ahead and paint. I always paint from the line up so that I know as soon as I've hit that yellow, that's the minimum depth that I need to go. The idea for magnetizing all of these models is that you make them as flush as possible. Make the magnet as flush as possible with the plastic, so it seems like the arms or backpacks or whatever pieces you're magnetizing don't come off at all, so the surface doesn't have any gap in it. All right, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and do the body here. So on the body, there's 3 places that we're going to put magnets. This is the back of the body. The front of the body, we're going to add an additional magnet for the head, because there's a nice big surface over here. Okay, so we're going to do the right arm and the left arm and the backpack. Okay, so keep in mind this surface on the backpack is rounded in here, so when you put the magnet in, you're going to want to make sure that the magnet is not sticking out and doesn't have a raised surface on it. So if you look at the Storm Boy that I've done prior, there's a little bit of sticking out over there, which is not good, not ideal, but I got a little hasty with this one. And then with the arms, you'll notice that, well, this is probably a bad example also, but this is as close as I could get on the inside in here. This one doesn't really matter. His shoulders, you can't really tell if there's a gap. Can't really see much of a gap anyway. All right. So we have our drill here, the holder. Of course, you're going to want to have one of these, this free spins over here, so that you can turn the drill without it grinding against your skin. You're going to want to make sure that you see how far your magnet is going to have to go in here. So it's up to that yellow line here. I want to make sure that we have enough plastic on the inside. All right, so for this particular, we should have enough. Also keep in mind that there is a ample amount of plastic around this drill hole that we're going to make here. Okay, so if this was too close to the edge here, like this, you wouldn't want to do this. It's going to cut the plastic up and it's going to make a big fucking mess. All right, so before we start drilling, I'm going to use our knife here to make a little bit of a pilot hole, if you will. Just going to twist it around here to get some of the plastic out. Okay, so there's a small little pilot hole in there, like that. Gonna go ahead and take our drill bit, stick it in the pilot hole, apply some pressure, just drill this out. All right. So when we're drilling, we want to make sure that before we hit our depth, we go backwards, counterclockwise, to kind of get some of the rubbish out of there, okay? So if you measure the hole right now, we still got a little bit ways to go here. If you want to play it safe, you can always drill a little bit further than the mark that you made on the bit. That allows you to put some glue in there without it popping out. The glue is always going to come out a little bit because it's going to be a tight fit, and it's going to create pressure in there because the seal is going to be pretty tight. So it's going to push some glue out, which is fine. We're just going to use a paper towel to clean that up. So I've gotten to my depth here. I'm going to go a little bit further just to be sure. It's a very messy process, just so you know. I'm going to get shavings everywhere. It's going to be annoying. All right, so we have our drill hole here, and it's at least the depth of our line and a little bit more, okay? Now, I know a lot of people are going to want to test fit the magnets at this point, but that's a bad idea. Never ever stick the magnet into the hole until you're sure of the polarity, number one, and number two, until you have some sort of adhesive in there to stick the magnet to, okay? So since a lot of my Storm Boys, or all my Storm Boys, are going to be magnetized, I want to make sure that the arms all have similar polarities, as well as the back for the magnets. So in this case, before we actually fill this hole, we're going to want to make sure that the magnet is in the right polarity. Now, when you first do your model, you just choose the polarity that you're going to put the magnet in for. Just put it in there, and then just make sure that all of the other magnets are going to be similar. So this Storm Boy's arm already has a magnet in it, of course. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our other magnets, and I'm just going to let the magnet sit on this other magnet over here, okay? So now that I know that this magnet is going to have the exact polarity that I'm going to want for this particular arm, okay? So before we glue it in there, we kind of want to clean up the area a little bit here. Okay, so this is fairly clean. We're going to go ahead and apply, I'll put the liquid cement in this one. This is a little bit cleaner than the super glue. Okay, so just put a dab in there. And then this is the tricky part here, okay? So we're going to go ahead and put the arm with the magnet already on it inside the socket, but only a little bit. We're going to just barely put it in there. Then we're going to slide the arm off so that we don't take the magnet out. And take the back of this tweezers here, and we're going to squeeze it up against the magnet to make sure that it's flush with this plastic surface here. Okay? Go ahead and clean off this. This glue is going to stick relatively well. Actually, this is cement, so it's going to take a little bit longer to dry. It's probably a little bit better to work with for the magnets. All right, so I went ahead and I cleaned up the area, and you'll notice that the magnet is in here nicely. Go ahead and just double check to make sure it's nice and flush. It's pretty good. It looks like it's out a little bit. All right. So this one is in here. Okay. You can see that magnet. And you want to test it, you can always just put the arm on there and you'll see. The arm is a little bit gapped because I screwed up the previous magnet. So I'm just going to try and not screw up the rest of the magnets here. But from the back, you can't really tell that it's magnetized. So that's exactly what we're looking for. Okay? So we have this arm. We're going to do the same thing to the other arm. We're going to use the other arm of the other Storm Boy to do the exact same thing on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this magnet on here. For this side, we'll go ahead and drill out this other arm. Alright, so I got the depth that I want on this one. Go ahead and just clean this up real quick. This hole came out nice and clean. You won't always get perfect holes. Not always going to happen, but try to make them as nice and clean as you can. A little cement. Go ahead and just check with the arm again. Slide it out just like that. Squeeze it flat with the tweezers. We have magnet number 2, just like that. We're going to use the reverse process to put the magnets in the arms, the same way we did in the torso. Alright, so before I do the back and the front here, I'm going to go ahead and super glue the front torso on, because it's good to have that extra little bit of stability there when we're drilling this. Need some more glue. This isn't enough. This one's going to be fussy. Alright, so we're going to move on to the curved surfaces. The back is going to be, I can't remember convex and concave. It's okay. Anyway, so for the backpack here, gonna want to make sure that we have a good, solid flat surface here with the magnet once we put it in. Go ahead and make our pilot hole here again. Clean that up after. Kind of a messy builder painter. All right. So this one's going to be a little bit tougher. So the reason we wanted the front on there is so we have a little bit more stability with this. Now with this one, since the surface is curving up, you're going to want to make sure that the mark on your drill bit goes all the way down to the lowest point. That way the magnet will sit flat. All right. So this is a little bit deeper than the drill bit, the marking on the drill bit, which is fine. All right, so I have the other backpack over here, the rocket pack. We're going to go ahead and put a magnet on there and figure out what polarity we're going to put in the back of him. Okay, click it just like that, set it in place. Go ahead and put the cement in. Okay. Go ahead and put the backpack in there real quick. Slide it out, leave the magnet. A little bit of glue on there, it's okay. Go ahead and take our tweezers and we'll use the back end to flatten this out. Okay. So if you'll notice, the backpack is relatively flush there, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's get some of this stuff out of the way here. All right, so now we have the back and both of the arms, okay? Now if we take our other Storm Boy over here, we take his arms and backpack off, we'll notice that everything goes right in place. No problem. So we can convert them. Just change them around a little bit, switch their backpacks up, no problem. All right, now the last one I'm going to do is going to be for the orc heads. Orcs usually come with two different heads. They come with some sort of armored or face-pieced head, and then another one with goggles or eyepieces or just primal. In this case, we have this guy here with the stick bomb, the grenade in his mouth. And we're going to go ahead and put that up here, and we're going to magnetize that so we can twist his head around or change the heads out. Okay? So first thing we're going to do, now we're going to go ahead and drill the hole for this head. Now I haven't done this on this particular Storm Boy, but I did do it on my Burnas and Ludas, and it's actually kind of cool. All right, so for this, you have a slightly different kind of surface to put the magnets into. The trick with this one is that you have to find the thickest part of the ork head to put the magnet, and then you need to find a place on the mounting surface here, or the body I should say, to put the magnet so that it doesn't look weird when you put the head on. Sometimes it's going to come out a little strange, but you just have to kind of play with it for a while to figure out exactly the best place to put it. So in this case, we're actually going to put it right here on the end, and we're going to have the magnet kind of face out, maybe about like this. Okay, go ahead and put our pilot hole in here. I have done some of these magnetizing of the pieces on some of this magnetizing of the pieces on the sprue, but it's a little tricky. You kind of don't want to do it on the sprue. It works, but I wouldn't recommend it. All right, so when you feel a little bit of extra resistance here when you're drilling, it means that you're going through to an empty space. That's where you need to be careful. That's where a lot of the damage occurs when you drill. So in this particular case, I've actually drilled through to a hollow point, which is fine. The magnet will still sit in there. You just have to be careful with how you put everything in. So the best thing to do if you reach a hollow point on your model is to actually put the magnet on the opposing side first. So let's go ahead and put the magnet hole over here. Let's see. Okay. Alright, so this is where we're going to put this pilot hole. And here's the hollow part of this model. Alright, so when you're drilling in these smaller surfaces here, these shallower surfaces I should say, you need to be very careful with how you drill. If you start to feel a poking from the back, if you're drilling it like this, some sort of protrusion, it means that the drill bit is forcing its way through the plastic and you're going to break through the other side. That's usually a bad sign. That usually means you screwed up your model. But that's okay. You can always buy more. Use the green stuff. Alright. We're just about there. Alright, so since I don't have any magnetized heads for these guys, I'll just go ahead and we'll just put whatever polarity in here for this. I'm not concerned about sharing the heads with the Ludas and Burnas. So you'll notice the razor blade picks up the magnet nicely. It's a good way to put the magnet in here if you can't get it in. Let's go ahead and push this flat as much as we can. A little less than flat maybe. Maybe tilt it up a little bit so it'll sit nicer. Okay. Alright. I'll get the other magnet. in there. And I'm going to want this one to set kind of quickly, so I'll put the super glue in this one. This one will get ugly. Just put a little dab on the inside edges here. That's the only part that's going to be holding the magnet. Now, even though the hole in here is basically going straight into the middle of the body, and it's only going to be held by the sides of the magnet, the super glue should hold it in place with no problems. So go ahead and we'll take the head part here with the extra magnet, slide it right over the top, put the magnet in, hopefully, if I haven't screwed this up. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to gently push it flat with the tweezers. Of course, it's not going to want to go gently, of course. Make an ass out of me, will you? Well, it's not going gently. In fact, we're making a mess of this whole thing. Alright. You see there's some fatigue on the plastic here. I'm not going to push it any more than that. Obviously I didn't drill this all the way nicely, but the head will definitely fit on there, and you can turn it side to side, so it's not that big of a loss, I suppose. Alright, so let's do the rest of the arms here. So I'll go ahead and put a magnet on each side and the backpack. I generally like to keep a lot of magnets out, and I just stick them to any metal surface I can. I just grab them off of here so I don't lose them. Alright. So, yeah, let's do the arms first, and then we'll come back and we'll do the backpack last. So on these arms here, just try to get them as close to the middle as you can. Sometimes you won't. You'll notice the surface. Clean this up here. You'll notice the plastic isn't as thick as on the other arm here. That's okay. Go ahead and make our pilot holes. Like I said before, you can't magnetize all the different armies. Well, okay, let me be more specific. You can magnetize anything if you have a magnet small enough, a drill bit small enough, and enough patience. I don't have enough patience to do the other armies. I've done my Death Guard and my Orks, but I'm not doing the Harlequins. They're just too damn small. Too damn small for me. So I drilled my two little pilot holes here with the end of the razor. By the way, my razor is a little bit older. Sometimes it helps to have a dull one in the dull blade in your razor, just to make sure you don't cut yourself quite as bad. Your skin will toughen up, but you won't toughen up enough for a fresh razor to stop on it. Alright, it's almost done with this hole here. And when we drill and we get towards the end here, we always go counterclockwise to kind of clean out this rubbish and make it really nice. So, got a nice little hole here for the arm. Let's do the other side. one's a good depth. So let's just clean these up real quick. I tend to use the back of my razor more than the mold line remover. It's just easier sometimes. Alright, so we got the arms drilled. We have the magnets on the body already. So we'll go ahead and I guess I'll use super glue for this one, but don't use too much. Any amount that you put in here is going to get squeezed out the side, and it's going to be ugly really quick. Right. Just about to glue both arms, but get a little hasty with that. All right, so we go ahead. We got the super glue in here in the arm. We got the magnet on the body. We're going to go ahead and put the arm onto the magnet. Slide the magnet off as gently as we can. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this one flush. Came out pretty nice. Look at that. That one will fit on here nicely, just like that. Perfect. All right, so let's do the other arm. So much in the glue. It's okay. Let's wipe that off. Go ahead and let's stick this other arm on here. Carefully. Slide the magnet off with it. Go. Squeeze this one flush. You see the glue came out of this one. Put a little extra in there. Not really necessary, but like I said, kind of a messy builder painter. So, all right. So we got this one on. We got this one flush. This one is also good to go. The glues will usually dry pretty quick, and the magnets are going to be pretty snug in these holes as long as you get the right size drill bit. So like I said, with these magnets that I bought on eBay for $11, this 500 pack, it's a 3mm by 2mm, which comes down to, what is it, 7/64, I believe, is the size of the drill bit, which is ridiculous. I don't know why we don't just use metric. That's okay. All right, so we got the two arms and the head, and these are all magnetized. Last part that we have to do is going to be the backpack. Okay, so we have one more magnet on here, and we still need to drill the hole in this. Let's go ahead and take these parts off. So for this backpack, you'll notice that it's actually two pieces. Pretty sure there's another piece that goes in the top. Didn't really look too in depth at the instructions here. I just wanted to make sure I had this piece together so that we could go ahead and drill it. When you have two mating surfaces that you have to put a hole right in the middle of, you need to be very careful. You need to go slow. Even with the little pilot holes for this, you just go ahead and make a small little hole in here. Try not to kill ourselves. Let's go ahead and drill it like this. Oop, a little crack there. Go really slow with the drill if you have to at first. You really don't want to mess this up. Well, or you do. Doesn't really matter. You can always use the green stuff. Go ahead and drill our hole here. Now, when we drill this hole, we want to make sure that the yellow on the drill bit goes to the, I guess it would be the lowest part of this surface, so that it goes as well, won't go entirely flush because it's a flat surface inside of a curved one, but we want to make sure that there's no raised edges on the sides. Sometimes you'll hear some snapping in the plastic. It's just going through the different levels in here. There's a little void in here, I believe. Thin void. Alright. So we just about got it to our depth here. After you drill something like this, like a backpack, you're going to want to make sure you didn't break anything or split it. Alright, so check the depth. And we're a little bit farther than the yellow, so we're good to go. Let's go ahead and clean this up real quick. Try to make sure you don't leave any debris on the inside. It could prevent the magnet from sitting flush. I've had that happen many times before, and basically if that happens, you're going to have some gap in your model. There's no question about it. Now you could always just put a really small amount of green stuff around the magnet and then paint around that. I'm sure there's people out there that do that, but I'm still learning how to be a really good modeler here. I'm just gonna, I don't have the patience for that right now. So we do have the magnet in his back already, and we're ready to go ahead and put that in. So go ahead and put some super glue in here. Okay, it's probably gonna be a little much. That's okay. Squeeze it out, we'll just clean it. Right, so we'll go ahead and put the backpack on here. This magnet seems to not be cooperating right now. Let's grab another magnet. This one's not cooperating. All right. So this isn't cooperating, so we're going to go ahead and drill this out again real quick. I know there's glue in there, but it's okay. We'll just clean it off the bit. There's always something that goes wrong. Alrighty. Got the inside cleaned out again. Put some glue in there. Alright, so we barely got the magnet in there. Let's go ahead and push it flat. Very rarely you're going to have some fussy magnets that split things. That's nice. Alright. Alright, so this magnet's too big. So I must have got it mixed up with one of my other ones. Let's see if I can get... This is one of the problems with buying online. Sometimes you don't get all the same size stuff. Let's grab some more magnets and try again. So we've already actually split this piece, which is one of the fears that I had. Of course, what's a how-to video with how to screw it up? So we'll go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. So you can see how far it actually drilled in there. It's a little too far, but it's okay. We're not going to die. Clean this up a little bit. We'll re-glue it. I'll see if I can't stuff another magnet in there. Get some of this debris out of here too while we're at it. So for the record, I usually don't throw out my magnets. I just leave it on the side Nice and gluey. Later on I'll deal with it. So I guess some of that cracking I heard earlier when I was drilling it was this separating itself, which is fine. It happens from time to time. Can't really avoid it. Just clean up a little bit around here first. See if I can't get some of this rubbish out of here. Work here. Just try and glue this back together real quick. I'll go ahead and put a magnet in here. If you wanted to, you could just drill a slightly larger hole and the magnet would slide right in. But there are dangers with that. Sometimes you will lose the magnet on the inside of the model. I've had that happen more than a few times. I've screwed enough stuff up. So just be aware that it's a possibility. Then you have to go back and open up the model and fish it out, start over. It's a pain in the butt. Alright, see if we can hold this together for a little bit. Alright, so I'll just kind of fit test another magnet. Might have to just drill this a little bit on the sides. You'll notice from time to time the markings that you put on your drill bit will come off. Just repaint it, or don't, but it's easier with the paint. It's a lot easier. Alright, so let's see if we can split this open again with a magnet. Hopefully this goes in. See what kind of damage we can do. Alrighty. Oh, that's much nicer. Okay. Yeah, it's going to split again, I think. That's okay. We'll just seal it up. Yep. Alright, so this one's a little bit trickier. So it wants to play games. I'll just go ahead and seal it from the outside with can't even speak anymore. Seal it up with the glue, and then I'll just clean the surface off afterwards. Just so we can get this done. This is really messy, and I wouldn't recommend doing this. You should use green stuff or something else, but screw it. Just a demonstration. Alright. So we put the magnet in, should be sitting down nicely. Just going to clean off some of the surface glue here. Alright, so I went ahead and put the magnet in here. It's about as good as it's going to get for right now. This is one of the problems with magnetizing split surfaces, but you can always just drill a slightly larger hole and it'll keep the magnet from splitting the sides. That's what I'd recommend doing. Me, I'll just fill the holes and clean it up and then spray it later. Anyway, this backpack will sit on here nicely. along with his arms. And his head. So we have our completed Storm Boy. And he is completely compatible with our other Storm Boy, except for the head, of course. Of course, you can mix and match weapons and backpacks and whatever else. That's one of the joys of magnetizing things. Anyway, that's the end of this tutorial. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up.